All right, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have some really special guests that are actually from the other side of the border, and we'll reveal in a minute what sides of the border. But they are definitely one of the coolest gentlemen in corporate cannabis that I know personally. Go on record saying that. First off, my brother from another mother, Director of the Canadian Securities Exchange, Barrington Miller. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Second off, VP of Listing Developments, my brother James Black. Yay. And then last but not least, my brother from another mother, Richard Carleton, Chief Executive Officer. Thank you guys for joining Vlad on the Happy Hour.
Happy to
mother
be
to
here.
another mother, but no father to his style.
That's right. I'm the last man in North America still shaving.
Listen, you're looking sharp. You're looking sharp. Some people are looking kind of shaky during this quarantine, Richard. You're looking sharp. I'm not gonna lie. So, guys, tell me, how is life treating you? Are you guys staying medicated to keep your mental health during these crazy times? Tell me how's the climate over there on the other side of the border? I know most of you guys are like either in Toronto or close to Toronto. So give us a little bit, give the Happy Monkey family a little bit of an insight of how, life is on the other side of the border.
Who wants to jump in?
I you know what, man, it's been good. I'm not going to put too fine a point. I've been enjoying quarantine. It's been a nice change. We got the grind up here for me, I'm a commuter, right? So it's an hour to work every day, an hour home, usually an early start. I'm up at 5 a.m. So I'm waking up with my kids at 7 o'clock, these days 6 o'clock, but whatever. And I'm going to spend time with everyone, still getting the work done. Hopefully Richard feels like the work's getting done. We've got a great team. We're doing lots of stuff virtually. We've adapted, like I've seen you guys do, Vlad. Creating content, connecting with people a different way. And it's taken us out of our comfort zone a little bit, but it's also planting the seeds for some new creative ideas and some new creation at the exchange about how we tell our stories and how we connect with people and how we work as a team. So I've been really embracing it. You know what I mean?
I think, well said, James. I think that it's just like any situation, either you can see the glass half full or half empty. I like your perspective. Right now, people get enough doom and gloom from the news. Here at Happy Hour, we try to, keep people uplifted. They can watch all the other doom and gloom on all the other news
CNN
channels.
or whatever.
Well, Vlad, that's why I've got, a couple posters behind me here. This is from World War I. Right, and they were done in the the United Kingdom. So we got the famous "Keep calm and carry on," and then the other one is "Don't take alcoholic drinks on Monday." Because your service people, men and women in the service, are sacrificing so much, and it's like a small price to pay. Don't take alcoholic drinks on Mondays.
Listen, man, that's why we came up with the name Happy Hour, right, Richard? Because so many people are associated with alcohol. But, Vlad is reinventing the wheel, as always. This is a different kind of happy hour, And I think that's one of the positives of this, that, it's showing that all the alcohol places are closed, but people that are medicating are getting by just fine without it.
Yeah.
It's an essential service. It really is. And not just for medicinal, but recreational or self-medicating, which usually has negative connotations. But we're getting by. This is one thing I'm really surprised about as far as work is nothing has slowed down. It's still balls to the wall, and it doesn't matter if it's just expanded even more. Like, I have calls on Sunday evening. I have one on Saturday morning at 11, and business is rolling, knock on wood or whatever you want to knock, which is really surprising. We're fortunate. We have a few people that still go into the office, very skeleton crew, but I've talked to this whole thing We have a girl out west named Anna Sarin. She's in our Vancouver office. I talk to her more now than I ever have, and just because of this, it's the technology. It's
Me too, actually. Yeah.
yeah, like it's been great. I don't feel out of touch with people.
Vlad, my wife didn't bat an eye when I said I had to go on the Happy Monkey podcast at 10 p.m. on a Friday.
Tell her that you're in good hands, like all stay with Vlad.
Yeah.
How about you, Richard?
I'm not gonna lie though. This is like way past my normal bedtime now.
That's what James told me. James said it's bedtime, Vlad, but he said he'll make an exception for you, and I'm really honored, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. But no, to James's point, we we're all commuting into the office, normally, and I'm still getting up early, and look at the overnight markets. I do what I hope is an inspirational message to the team every morning. Try to keep it light. Give some shout outs across the team. Give a bit of a flavor of what's going to happen over the course of the day. Get that done by like 7:15 in the morning, and then start to strap in. And I'll tell you what, as you can see, it's I'm not making much time for exercise. Is
it a new chin you're growing there, Richard?
Oh, fuck.
Here, let me say this, I wonder how many people are now participating in home grow operations as a result of this situation. I've seen a lot of people baking sourdough bread, and doing gardening, but are people now growing their own cannabis as a result of the fact that?
Tell you what, they ain't growing it outside here because it's been cold as crap.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see the seedlings. The seedlings have already started, but you wait till mid-May, end of May, and stuff's gonna get transplanted outside, and it's gonna pop. Absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna give you guys my opinion of the situation because I also want to know your opinion, guys, because I look at this as like the way they looked at it in the Bible, like ADBC. I think it's going to be like pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's going to be a time in history where it's going to be that big of a division where people are going to be, you remember guys, pre-COVID, you remember post-COVID, it's going to be like that. So I'm proud to be part of this industry because even though we're a small industry compared to others, the unity that I've seen during these times, the people using their platforms for positive things like charities and awareness has really made me be proud and honored to be part of this industry because even though we're small, we've been very effective and very resourceful. So that's the question I have for you guys. Like I mentioned, I believe as a whole society is going to be like pre-COVID, post-COVID. Now I'm asking you guys, cannabis industry, where do you guys see the industry going from pre-COVID to post-COVID, and what do you guys see like how you guys see the new normal in cannabis being as far as the industry?
Big question.
Go ahead, boys.
I'll jump in.
Sure.
So I've attended a lot of virtual conferences, and you're right. The first 15-20 minutes are just shout outs to the fathers, the mothers, the sisters, brothers, everybody who's helped build the industry, who has sacrificed for the industry, and it's really good. If this conference is going to start at 4, it starts at 4:15 or 4:20, and it's giving a nod to those people. The post-COVID, we've seen a change, and we've seen this industry be able to withstand or pivot or adapt to that change. You're going to see a lot more virtual tours and virtual sampling and virtual looking at products as opposed to the walking in and touching, and that's going to become the new normal. It's going to be curbside pickup, distribution channels, non-touching as far as your interaction, a lot more delivery services, things like that. Those are going to be the hangover from this whole COVID thing. We will get back to some sort of normalcy, but it won't look the way
it'll be a new normal.
Oh, for sure. It's not gonna look the same. There's no way. There's no way. Like, people aren't even talking about flying. Like, I'm gonna go fly and visit. No one's flying. 2020, no one's flying. No chance. But
Thank you for sharing, Barrington. I
No
definitely
problem.
agree. And
Those are
I
good
appreciate
points.
your insight because, like I said, I like your opinion, guys, because it's like you guys know what's going on in the U.S. and you guys know what's going on in Canada, so you got like a hybrid opinion compared to usually people I speak to.
Yeah, no, those are good points, Bear. I think people are going to, as you said, just gather more virtually. So from the business development standpoint of us going to conferences and stuff like that, someone who has to approve those budgets. My first question reaction to most things is, can we not just do this first? Is it necessary to actually go somewhere and meet people and shake hands and cough on each other and all that stuff? Not that I'm a germaphobe, but I don't want us to be stuck in our homes forever. I mean, the whole culture that you espouse at Happy Munkey, Vlad, it's the first way we met you was at the club, and it was people together in a room socializing over the cannabis, and you don't want to lose that aspect. We still want to share the ritual of it, but from a business perspective, I'm going to be hard pressed to say like we have to go to all these conferences anymore, and that's something I'm kind of looking forward to.
Yeah, but there are a few we really, really, really have to go to.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
How about you, Richard? How do you feel pre-COVID, post-COVID cannabis industry, new normal?
Yeah, I mean I think the industry has gained a lot of legitimacy over the last few weeks. The recognition as an essential industry. I mean, you've got some jurisdictions in the U.S. where you can buy weed, but you can't buy booze. Like, how awesome is that? But I think you're going to be looking at an environment where state governments and provincial governments will be looking to raise as much tax revenue as possible, and cannabis sales is potential avenue for that, right? So, maybe this does mean more states decide to legalize for recreational purposes, for example, as a revenue generator as much as anything. As Barrington said, we've got, in Canada, we didn't have too many of these delivery services, curbside pickup, all of that stuff. Again, there's still a lot of stigma we've got to overcome. And, that this whole process now is taking care of that. But again, we're still in early days here in Canada, especially when it comes to, for example, edibles and vapes and all of that. I did some field research a couple of weeks ago locally, and the selection was terrible for the, unless you wanted flower, edibles and topicals and vapes were almost non-existent. Like the supply chain is, still very challenged in Canada. So, that's something that consumer demand will drive. But, I think that's something that we certainly need to look at.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for sharing. I have another important question because, as you guys know, the country in America is sort of divided in a way. Feel like the West Coast is more liberal, the East Coast is more conservative when it comes to cannabis. What do you guys think about New York State taking the cannabis recreational out of the budget and deeming it non-essential? Because that's what it is over here. It's like I said, I feel like it's a big border when it comes to cannabis between West Coast and East Coast. Like I said, I feel like it's liberal and conservative, and I feel like we're like 20 years behind the West Coast.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Because Massachusetts as well is a state that you'd think is politically liberal, but they also went, cannabis is non-essential and shut down the retail outlets. And certainly Governor Cuomo has been, I have to say, been speaking out of both sides of his mouth on, the cannabis issue really for a couple of years now, right? I think the thing that's going to move New York State as much as anything is if you get New Jersey or Connecticut to legalize for recreational purposes, and then New York will really, say, oh, well, we were forced to, or, get kicking and screaming into it. But I do think it was surprising that they pulled back as they did. I don't understand what the political driver there was. listen, the force of history is on the side of righteousness here, and I think as we're able to focus on broader issues again, I think the right decisions are going to get made probably sooner rather than later.
If I can jump in on Richard's point, and when New York sees those dollars going underneath the tunnel, underneath the bridge, flowing to the other states, that's going to whip them into shape. And as far as Massachusetts, they shut down dispensaries because they were trying to eliminate the movement of COVID. They did not want people crossing their borders into their state to get weed, and that's why they deemed it non-essential. They're like, hey, we're going to try and limit travel. So I do get that, but New York's been a mystery, and when it comes to
it's a mystery is no good. It's a great way to put it.
It's but it will come down to the dollar, and when they see, you can literally see the dollars going across the Hudson, and that'll wake them up for sure.
Wait, Vlad, what the fuck are you drinking?
This is a Mexican soda called Jarritos. I just had some tacos before I get to get my stomach full to be ready to tackle the cannabis juggernauts. I have to be ready.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing for Cinco de Mayo?
Oh man, it's like you said, everything virtual. We'll probably have like some, Taco Tuesday, everybody smoking virtually or something along those lines. So we didn't get your take on it, James, as far as like the whole New York situation, non-essential and.
Doesn't New York have a history of legislating against people who smoke cigarettes? So where I'm going with this is that this COVID-19 it affects the lungs, and lung health is. I've just listened to your podcast, Barrington, about Algernon, so I'm thinking about this. But
oh yeah,
lung health and people taking care of themselves and preventative medicine, and the conflict that has with smoking cannabis, which is still up in the air as to whether that's how damaging that can be to your lungs. And in a state like New York where there's this hard stigma against smoking, are people gonna be able to consolidate their love of cannabis and smoking it to the growing concerns that people have for their health and their lung health? I don't know. It was just something that came to me, and I'm not trying to spook you because I know you gotta.
No, it's just that's the whole thing here, that we want to hear all sides of the perspectives. It's all opinions. Nobody has a magical ball and knows all the answers. It's just good to get different perspectives so we can get an idea, what it is.
Yeah. Sorry.
I have another question for you guys. I want to know, how is Canada going about it? As you guys know, we had like a 3.2 trillion stimulus bill here, and cannabis was not included. So I want to know what you guys think about that, and how does Canada's stimulus bill work differently?
We've got a whole bunch of different things that are available. The wage subsidy is probably the centerpiece of the relief legislation, which is basically, if you're an employer and you can demonstrate that your revenues are off by 30% as a result of COVID, that you're entitled to basically get a subsidy for 75% of your wage bill, up to, I think it's roughly 60 grand a year. Okay, so that, and you have to rehire, or at least retain those employees. And so the idea is that you're trying to keep the businesses going so that when we come out of this, they're there to ramp up right away. Now, the reality is there were a few businesses in the cannabis space that were affected, by a negative 30% revenue drop. But hey, a bunch of them have had significant increases, right? The ones that are involved in, particularly in the retail, product formulation, consumer packaged goods. This is it's been a very, very solid couple of months at this point. So there were some programs that were originally put out by the Business Development Bank, which is, there is a U.S. equivalent. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a lender of last resort to small business and startups. Originally, they were going to keep the cannabis industry out, and then somebody asked them why, and they could actually come up with no good reason. So they, in fact, decided to include those companies in eligibility for loans, basically to, again, help keep the businesses operating through, the lockdowns. So, yeah, I mean, it's, as you know, I mean, we were in I think a bit of an inflection point in the business anyway. We had a lot of businesses that were had burned through the capital that they had raised when they originally went public. They had anticipated that they could keep going back to the public markets to fund their growth, and all of a sudden it was like, oh crap, what are we going to do now? Because the kitty's running a little dry here. So there's a lot of work being done. There's been some bankruptcies, some Chapter 11 style arrangements at this point. But at the same time, we're also seeing companies that are prospering, the ones that may eventually be the leaders in the marketplaces as we mature. So it did hit at a very interesting time in the life of the industry, and I think it's probably accelerated some of the trends where it may have, it may kill off some of the weaker players and may, help identify who the eventual strong guys are going to be.
There is still money in the cannabis space. That's a question that keeps coming up. And again, to Richard's point, if you're a shrewd, frugal business, I'll take Cresco for example. Cresco just turned down 2 deals. I don't know, north of 100 million. I think one of them was close to 200 million. They turned it down. They said, nope, this is not in the best interest of our shareholders or our business going forward at this time. That's not a direct quote, but those are the kinds of business decisions that are going to help these companies go forward. There will be blood on the streets. There will be distressed assets for sure. And this was going to happen. This was going to happen no matter what. If it was COVID or summer 2020, winter 2021, this was going to happen. We were going to see this. Everything just excelled a lot faster than anyone anticipated. And the companies now that do have access to this money, they have to make smart decisions with the money that they have. Like Richard said, you can't keep going back to the public markets, just burning, having the world's largest grow and not have a sound business plan. It's going to be an interesting chess game to see what these companies do with the money that they can get, knowing that a lot of their competition, and I use that lightly, won't have access to that money.
That's right. Did I see that Canopy exercised or Constellation rather exercised a whole bunch of warrants today on they're holding in Canopy?
I think so. Yeah. I think I saw that too.
And they also laid off 200 people.
Yeah. But I mean, the writing was on the wall, unfortunately. There. Yeah, you just can't buy anything and grow by being some sort of like. People are trying to grow these mega conglomerate cannabis things. Last time we talked to you, Vlad, I mean, there was companies that were still on this rapid acquisition trail and buying just anything in markets they didn't even understand. And here we are. People are now being a little more focused. They're deciding that, being in a couple of states is okay. There's a lot of audience out there for their product. They just got to build goodwill there, and then things expand slowly and surely. It's not you don't need to build hundreds of millions of acres of grow to get your audience and be vertically integrated and all this other stuff. It's really good businesses out there.
I was going to say though, there's some guys I really do feel sorry for though, because I won't name the names, but you can probably figure out who I'm talking about. But some folks in Nevada and Las Vegas who have just spectacular businesses.
Yeah.
Right? They're so entrepreneurial. They were so did some really, really cool stuff. Uh-oh. And and here they are, tourism is utterly collapsed, the place is empty, Sales have collapsed. And I mean, these guys did all the right stuff, made all the right decisions. They were good stewards of capital. They were incredibly entrepreneurial. They anticipated customer demand, great design, like just all of the really, really good decisions. And as I say, here they are just hanging on for their lives at this point.
Too much circumstance, yeah.
They really are. We talked about them with Alan Brockstein, Richard, and they pivoted hard. Like they are delivery service. And like you said, they are hanging on, but who knows?
See, I feel similar to what you said, Richard. It's like bittersweet for me, right? So bitter part obviously is what you mentioned. There's some good people that, circumstances don't benefit them. And even though it's not their fault, it'll affect them badly. But then I feel like on the sweet side, I feel that this is going to put the industry through a filter, and really the cream of the crop will come out on the other side. And I really feel like it'll filter out some of those people that were looking for the 10, 20, 30x flip overnight, and these ridiculous valuations of $500 trillion overnight and all these different things. So I feel like it's going to filter out some of that stuff, and the real people like us that I consider you guys we all knew this is a long play. This is a long game. This isn't a hit and run. This isn't that kind of party. I feel like it's going to get rid of a lot of those people that were just in it for the hit and run, and didn't really care about the magnitude of the transition the industry's going to really keeping the cream of the crop, and those players that can weather the storm and are really playing the long game, not the 50x overnight game.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to grow business. Sorry, go ahead, Richard.
I was going to say, I don't know if it was Warren Buffett, but it is one of my favorite sayings that when the tide goes out, we all find out who was swimming naked.
Guys, it's Happy Hour with Vlad. I really appreciate you guys. I miss you, so cheers.
Cheers. I'm in my bedroom, so I can't participate. But.
So now we get into the fun part, guys, of the Happy Hour.
Here we go.
Now, this is the fun part. Enough, you guys answer the corporate stuff, CNBC, CNN, all these other craziness. Happy Hour with Vlad is more personal, sociable. So I want to know from each of you guys, give me your most interesting 420 tale, most memorable, time you consume cannabis that comes to mind.
Hey, we already did this.
Vlad, I'm gonna flip it.
You did it.
Totally did this.
No, you did the first time, the last time that you used cannabis. This is the most memorable. Two different subjects.
I'll lead it off because I know you guys are shy. I'll lead it off.
Yes, thank you, James. That's how I love James. Loosen him up, James.
So 420 is not necessarily the date this happened, but it was probably in and around. I if you didn't notice already, I'm wearing a Vancouver Grizzlies hat because I used to live out in Vancouver. We miss you, Grizzlies. We have a lot of islands where I lived. I lived in Vancouver Island. So with islands, you usually get hippie populations because they like to hide on islands, I guess. And hippies typically batch and make their own brownies with cannabis. And so there's this one island called Pender Island. It's a beautiful place. I highly recommend you go there. Spend a week or two and just chill out, look at whales. But we went there one day and procured some of these homemade batch brownies from the local hippies. And this is why we need regulations on dosage and clear
labels,
clear labeling and measurement and all. Because if you buy brownies off of someone who's in an RV on an island in the west coast of Canada, that stuff is not meant for beginners. It's just not meant for the beginning crowd.
Not for the faint of heart, huh, James?
No. So my one friend who's actually a trader down in Wall Street, he's a very he's a smart guy, accomplished dude. We decided to try these brownies, and an hour later he couldn't talk. I mean, he could verbalize, but he couldn't talk, if that makes sense. And I remember just feeling not the best. It was just going.
You're my influence, James.
Yeah, no, it was his idea, right? I was just.
He said it was his idea. That's right. I was just along for the ride.
So It was memorable in the sense that it was different than the flower because it was obviously that body high. You just had that completely different on take of it and a different vibe. And unfortunately, I should have taken a third of what they were handing out at the time. But yeah, that was a memorable one for sure. And again, I'm glad, and I hope at some point I can go into a not necessarily government-run store, but one that's selling craft brownies with proper dosage and re-experience the what I was supposed to have, which was a positive moment in my life with cannabis and not what turned out to be really weird.
Thank you for sharing, man. I appreciate it. Now you, Barrington, Richard, who's gonna go first? Come on, it's happy hour with Vlad. It's not 60 minutes. It's not Barbara Walter, guys. Come on,
man.
Guys.
You know what? I'm trying to find one that's like relevant. There was one birthday. I left on a Thursday and came back on a Saturday. I got picked up at 1:30 p.m. and this was a much simpler time when you could cross the border between Canada and the US with just your shorts on, and they look at you going, "You're not a threat to anybody." And yeah, I think that was my 21st birthday. I left home on June the 6th and I returned home on June the 8th, just with said shorts. And
tell us, Walker, give us some details. What were you smoking? How was it? Was
oh
it
yeah,
was it edibles?
Yeah.
Give it.
No. Me and edibles aren't really.
Yeah,
we're not tight.
This is about a 45-minute story involving hockey players. Buffalo,
back,
Niagara Falls, New York, and
there was dancing girls. There was backs of pickup trucks and off-roading and water jet skiing on the Welland Canal and playing in a softball game that you're not registered for, like all of it.
and a lot of cannabis.
Yeah, and waking up and on someone's couch at a friend of a friend's, but everything was cool,
So I got to share this.
You're only 21 once, Barrington.
I've acted like I've been 21 for a long time, so gotta chill out on that. But tonight I'm actually celebrating with a bottle of bubbly. So
that's
very classy.
That's our goal. Like right now, it's in this time of crisis, we want to bring people back to a time, like you said, Barrington, simpler time, happier time, and and uplift people. Like we said, they get the doom and gloom from somewhere else. We're not gonna do that here. Happy hour.
I saw one really ingenious person because I live in a decent neighborhood, okay, and everyone here is coping pretty nicely, but you don't smell cannabis in the air too often when you walk your kids around. Though the other day I did notice a nice minivan sitting in someone's parking lot with the windows rolled up and a little smoky stuff coming out of the window. And
suburban style.
Yes, and then I finally realized this is why I still have my minivan in my parking lot, is because it's really hard to do anywhere else. Because
hot boxing in the minivan. All right,
I finally found
in the minivan.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I haven't done that yet, but
let me find out. You got one of those Scooby Doo vans up there.
Nah, just an old Dodge Caravan. Just an old Dodge Caravan, which is dying. It's screaming like, do something inside of me because I suck as a car. So, maybe it needs to be
Okay, so Vlad, I've got
last but not least, Richard always has the coolest stories. He just, you just got to break them in a little bit.
I got a good one. So, when I was you remember, of course, I confessed to being a band nerd, right?
Yes.
And
we know you like Motown, and we know
but I was the horn section. I was a trombone player. So when I was a senior in high school, so there it is. It's the spring, right? It's a gorgeous day. It's early June, and I was obviously in the band, and we were playing at the convocation. Or commencement rather at Trent University, so the local university. So we had to play God Save the Queen, because it's Canada and Queen Elizabeth is our head of state, and O Canada. So one of my buddies, remember, of course, it's a beautiful day, gorgeous day. And of we've actually packed our bathing suits because this university is actually on a river. We were going to go swimming afterwards because we had to play the recession, like Pomp and Circumstance, as they came down, all this stuff. So it was kind of a split gig. So we sparked up a couple fat ones on the way up to the university, and with my buddy who was a clarinet player. So of course we were late.
Clarinet players are always the biggest potheads too. I mean, that's kind of
we go running in, and we get there just as the music is starting, and I like just hammer out "God Save the Queen," and it was actually "Oh Canada" that we were.
That's awesome.
And what made you what confused you like that? What were you doing before that?
I was higher than a kite. What do you think the reason was?
No, that's a cool story. Thank you for sharing, Richard. And I got another interesting, fun question for you guys. How and who was the first person that put you guys on to Happy Munkey, the brand, the movement, the place? And how was your first experience?
Well, I think it's credit to our German friend Robert.
Robert
yes.
Murfield.
Murfield.
Yeah.
Shout out to Robert, because he will do anything in his heart to connect people, to try to make good happen.
Yes.
And so he blessed us by introducing us to you. And I think actually it was Richard's idea that one night back in November to take a cab up to Midtown and visit your establishment. But I've got the pin. I still have that pin, and that's never going to leave me, because that's a
Yep.
that represents a really unique place and time, man.
Actually, I think Bobby Paley may have turned us on to you guys. Barrington and I were down in Florida at a Benzinga event, and we met Bobby for the first time, and she was talking you and Ramona big time.
Yeah, Bobby's like a friend and a mentor to us. So after that, how was your first experience when you actually went?
For me, I'm still trying to remember. There was a group, and there was a
Yeah, because I think you came before them. Barrington had been there already, I believe.
I had been there, and I was just following the group. And I'll be damned if I remember who I was with. But when I got there, this is when you know the world is big and the world is small. Because I met a guy that worked at High Times who I met in Panama like 7 months ago. And we just sat there on a little park bench drinking Coronas and just chatting, never exchanged names, never talked since then. And then I walk in and he's there, and we look at each other and we're like, no way, and big hugs and high fives. And then, like Richard said, ran into Bobby, and there's a few other people, and it's like going home. It's like coming home, never realizing that you had left. It was like so familiar, so comfortable. The DJ was spinning. It was a lady who was in the back corner. And I went up to her and I was just like, thank you. And she's like, for what? Like, just this. She walked around, gave a hug. It was great. It was great.
I think the one thing when you're in New York too, we talk about music, but your music is like the world's music. New York has just created the tapestry of audio that we've all plugged into. That when we come to New York and we hear that music, appreciate that we've heard that in Canada. We've heard that for years. We've been there. And so we go to your clubs or we go somewhere like that. And we're not just sharing the cannabis experience, we're sharing the music experience. And I think the two are, to me, they're so connected, those two things. Like Richard alluded to, he's a better musician when he's high. But
No, I tell you what, playing the trombone while you're high is bad. It's bad.
But guys, Richard, do you remember when we were there and we were hanging out for a bit, and then Mikey shows up with the ice cream, and
ice cream.
Everyone's a little parched for whatever reason. It's a little dry in there.
Yeah, no, we're sitting there for a bit, and some guy shows up with the best ice cream I've had in my life.
Shout out to
Couldn't get any
Mikey.
better.
Mikey likes it. Ice cream.
Mikey
That
likes
was
it.
you couldn't make that up.
No. Small business owner. I hope he's doing okay during these times. I hope during COVID people are still getting their ice cream on and getting it for Mikey because he does like it. I mean, I like it too.
Yeah.
You know what the crazy thing is, Vlad? When
You know, Richard says when he gets the ice cream, we're going on the podcast because they got on the podcast, right, Barrington? He's like, the whole episode could just be about the ice cream.
just
yeah.
the ice cream. Mikey likes it. We have the
Pink
sticker.
Floyd.
We have the
Pink
sticker in
Floyd,
our
baby.
office.
Pink Floyd.
Vlad, and this is a credit to you and to the staff because I had been there once before, and then there was a big period of time. And again, you guys didn't know I was coming. I'd show up. You remembered where I was, where I worked for. It was just love, and there was a couple other people, and I hadn't been there. And I know you've seen thousands and thousands of other people. I know that, but you still step down and go, "Hey, Canada, you're back. What's up?" And I'm like, how the hell would you remember that? Like, why? And you did, and it was just a credit to you and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. It was just lots of love. Lots and lots of love.
He's even like that when he sees us out of context in seedy motels in Lagos too.
No, you know what's crazy, guys? I'm going to tell you something that I would have never thought that, you know, I'm Dominican, you know, first generation Dominican Republic, and, you know, they instill us a certain kind of hospitality and how to treat people. And, you know, grew up in a predominantly Dominican neighborhood here in Manhattan. So, you know, you thought this was commonplace. So when while we were Happy Munkey, part of the whole mantra was like, we're going to treat everybody that walks through that door like we like to be treated. No matter who it is, no matter how they look, no matter what they make, whatever. And it sounds so simple, but it was so effective. And it's like, you know, it's definitely harnessed the whole energy and the whole brand of what Happy Munkey represents.
No, it's I can't put it into words. It's inviting, it's warm, don't want to leave, don't know when I get there, don't know when I leave. Still don't know how to get there. There's always somebody's always taking me. I just say, can you get me to the Happy Munkey? Yep. And I just close my eyes, wake up, and I'm there. And when it's time to go, I walk out, turn left, and catch a cab. Like, that's it. And that's part of the mystery for me, is I could never, ever tell anybody how to get there. And it's amazing how many people have been there. Like, everybody who has passed through New York has gone there. Every single person I've talked to who's in the space or associated or touching the space, they've been there. Like,
it's the cannabis sanctuary.
Yeah, it's no, it's great. It's great.
Now, guys, I got an interesting question for you guys, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, are not as fortunate as me to have met so many amazing people like you guys from the other side of the border. You know, Happy Munkey's all about harnessing the New York City cannabis culture, right? So my question to you guys is, what do you guys see different as far as like the cannabis culture in Canada compared to the US? And give us a little bit of, you know, give us some analogies so we can understand, like, you know, because you guys, you know, are fortunate enough to see all the different sides of cannabis on both sides of the border. So I want to know from you guys.
I can jump in with that one. That's easy.
Because I've never been to Canada, guys. I'm still waiting. Richard and all three of you guys haven't got me there yet, but I hope soon I will be.
It's federally illegal in the United States, and you feel that. Like, you feel like, for me, you feel, even though it's cool, there's just that in the back of your head. Like, in Canada now, all right, it's federally legal. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. But when you're in New York, you still have that, and it's not just New York. It's anywhere in the United States. There's always at the back of your mind, something could change. This is still viewed as an illegal activity on some level by somebody somewhere, and you feel that, and you feel that the people that are gathered around, like, especially at, like, say, Happy Munkey, you know, they're standing up, and you know that they're saying, even though we know this might be, maybe, and shouldn't be federally legal, it is, we're still going to do this. This is still part of who we are and what we stand for and what we believe. And quite frankly, it's our right to. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I feel. When you're in Canada, like James said, walking down the street and there's a minivan sitting there and smoke's just billowing out, and okay, whatever.
I will say this though. I will say this, and this is kind of why about my, comment about public smoking and stuff in New York, but I think it's still stigmatized, man. I still think that when you spark, because of the smell and the scent, that when you spark and you're in public and maybe there's kids around or people who shouldn't be around, whatever, there's still a stigma around the flower.
There is, but it's not like it was 2-3 years ago.
I still feel like if you did it on the street though, maybe because I was at a bachelor party last year. I was hosting a bachelor party, and so we're pulling it out at like.
I can see you hosting a bachelor party, James.
8 a.m, right? And we're sitting there and walking around the street, and we're like, it was foreign to us in a sense of like, you can do this now. I can just walk down Rue Saint Laurent, Montreal, just doing this like casually. It's not it just is to me, because you spend all those years as a teenager and you're sneaking away trying to do it or not do it, and or not get caught doing it, and all of a sudden now you have this license to just go over there and make it happen. It's still have that sense, Vlad, that there's some danger about it, which maybe it's me, but that's how I feel there.
Yeah, there's no, like, nobody's gonna do or say.
They can't.
Like, that's what I mean. Like it's really like, okay, so what? Like, I've done it. I've given people, if it's, and this is my own, and I'm old and grumpy and whatever. If it's
you're still the spring chicken. Come on, don't say that.
You can't walk down the street and drink this. You can walk down the street and smoke a joint now.
Yes,
it's so counterintuitive to how we're raised.
It's true. But when I was going to work, and if if I smelled like a big heavy one in the morning, I'm like, come on, man, really? Come on. It's 8 a.m. Let's get it together. Come on, man. Like, I still give them that, that doesn't smell medicinal. I just feel like you just want to feel nice at this hour. And it's his or her right to, and that's fine. Yeah, that's the difference. That's the difference that I feel when I'm in the States, when you cross the border. And it's always in the back of your head. It's always in the back of my head. Just, all right, this is considered a gathering. Where does this fall on the federal statutes? And I get back into my country, stuff like that. So that's my.
I don't know.
How about you, Richard? What do you think about the culture, U.S. and Canada?
Well, you can't generalize, right? So, our West Coast is an awful lot like your West Coast, right? So you had a lot of local production, you had a lot of hippies, you had a lot of, guys living on islands and bands and, making up brownies and giving them to kids and stuff.
A basketball team that was probably all high all the time, and why did they leave?
That's why they moved to Memphis.
So, and then you get, like in the rural areas where the kids were growing their own weed and dad's back 40. A lot of that going on. You get to the east, it's more, obviously Toronto, Montreal, more, kind of like the New York, Boston, Philly.
Metropolitan, kind of more of a cocaine crowd, actually, but yes.
Actually, you know what? Never have I ever.
No, I've never even seen it.
On that one, it's just, I kind of missed it. Like I was too young, then I was too old, kind of thing.
I'm just scared of it, man.
Well,
like straight up, I'm scared.
So that was really good, you guys, because like I said, I'm including myself. This is not just for the Happy Monkey listeners. It's also for myself. I've never been to Canada, and you always assume, but the first time somebody broke it down in detail, like you, Richard, like the West Coast and the East Coast of Canada has similarities to the mentalities and the perspectives. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've exported a lot of weed culture too. Don't take it for granted that a lot of the Hollywood weed smokers like Seth Rogen and the stuff that's come into movies, that's from Vancouver, man. So those guys out west, they were pretty big potheads and brought that culture down to them and put on film. And I think you guys all appreciate the Pineapple Express and things like that they've done.
And Tommy Chong had to come from somewhere, right?
He lives up in North Van, right? Or West Van, rather.
I didn't know that. See?
Yeah.
Learn something every day.
Yeah.
Good Canadian boy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not a boy. He's in his 80s now, but it's
he's still doing podcasts.
Yeah, we might get him actually. Yeah. We're
So another big question, guys, I have for you guys. How was your first virtual 420? I know you guys are usually doing the conference global circuit all over the place. Now this was the first virtual 420. What differences did you guys see and how was it for you guys?
I mean, I'll talk from what we're doing. Barry will jump on this in a sec, but Vlad, we've been pushing hard on the digital content on the social channels. And
I remember last time we spoke, you told me that you were going to go hard with that.
Oh, we've gone hard. And so 420, we put out a podcast. It was with, I think it was Robin Rabinovich who was the one who did Bear.
Melissa Rolston.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah. So we've done a few, but next week we're going to flip the script a little bit. We're going to do 520 this year. We're just making up our own cannabis holiday.
520.
But starting next week, we've got like a murderer's row of cannabis executive content on Instagram Live. So no other exchange goes on Instagram Live as much as we do in Canada. We've got all the top CEOs from all the biggest MSOs coming on our channel talking to us about what's happening. So your first question about what's going on in the industry. If you watch our show 5 times next week, Monday through Friday, you're going to hear from the top people from every big company that's in the US, and they're going to tell you their story. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to do throughout we talk about doing a cannabis week next week. We're doing a whole week of theme content. I think it's going to run for 2 or 3 weeks because I think the demand is there from the listenership, but also people want to participate in the discussion.
This is actually the kickoff, Vlad.
Yeah, this is actually our kickoff. This is our unofficial.
This is the unofficial.
Listen, man. It's where you heard it first on the happy hour.
Exactly.
That's right. Mayday.
Yeah. May the 4th, because it's May the 4th, you'll see some goofy Twitter picture of Richard superimposed into a Star Wars, motif or whatever. But after all that, it's cannabis for like as long as people want it. So we respect the industry because of what it's done for our business, but also because it's something we believe is creating jobs, it's creating economy. The people that are running these companies are really good CEOs at the top level, and we want to be associated with that. That's good for business.
420 this year, I spent working and listening to a virtual conference put on by ArcView. There was a lot of love being
shout out to ArcView. That's my family right there.
Absolutely. There was a lot of love being given and a lot of history. They had the guys that came up with 420 and their story, and it has nothing to do, it's all had to do with time and meeting outside of a statue in high school, and everybody corroborated the story. And like James said, we have a chance to speak. We already recorded the Alan Brockstein from New Cannabis Ventures, and he was dropping knowledge left, right, and center. Like, he is such a advocate, critic, proponent, spectator, insider of the industry. We have a bunch of MSOs, and like James said, there's people, there's groups. It's not just companies. You have traders, you have brokers, you have market participants, you have people that just want to talk and want to share. And this weed week is spilling over. We've already booked stuff for the following week. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to a guy out of Europe who's in charge of the largest cannabis hiring firm, because what's happened with this whole COVID thing, at least from my perspective, I'm not hearing about South America. I'm not hearing about Colombia or Jamaica or South Africa. All I'm hearing is Canada or the US. There's still stuff going on in Europe, and there's still a whole industry, and I want to share that, and I want people to know what's going on. So we have stuff lined up. Like James said, this is probably going to be, I don't know, weed weeks, maybe weed month. We joked about weed month. It was like ha ha ha, and then we're kind of looking around like it might actually be Weed Month.
See, I think we are all on the same page because we all know here that the biggest issue in our industry and in society is lack of information and lack of education on cannabis. So I believe that the more platforms we have like this and the more of us merging and intertwining our fan bases and the people, the closer we'll get to having a fully optimal cannabis industry, the more that we're able to educate people and show them all the different sides and facets of this industry.
Knowledge is power.
I got a question for you, Vlad, and for anyone else here.
Okay.
All right.
Where has been the best, in your mind, integration of the corporate side of the cannabis industry with the culture side? So, you know, everyone holds Snoop Dogg up as this like ambassador of cannabis, you know, and he's kind of crossed over into the world of business. But have you seen sort of any really great examples of how someone who's running a really good, prudent company, you know, other than yourself, but like maybe some of the companies, you know, at CSC or a public company, and they've taken, you know, either an ambassador or someone who's been only known as a cannabis person and only known in the culture side and brought him into the corporate side and use them to leverage, you know, a strain of cannabis or a product or whatever. Have you seen any of that perfect marriage yet of the corporate with the culture?
I have actually. A good friend of mine that recently did that with an ambassador, and it's the company Bang, edible company.
Yeah.
And my friend, CEO Jamie Pearson, she recently got DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill to be like one of the creative directors of the company or something like that. So that's the latest thing that I've seen where, like, you know, somebody's, like you said, aside from ourselves, you know, the Happy Monkeys all based on corporate means culture, but, you know, not being biased with this, but that's the latest, like from a publicly traded company that I saw somebody grab somebody that is from the culture, from the hip hop, and make him part of the corporate and sort of, like you said, like merge those two worlds together.
Believe it or not, the guys at Cypress Hill smoked a little bit of weed once in a while. Right?
Just a little bit.
Just from time to time.
Jamie has a tremendous backstory too.
She's amazing. I had her on the podcast. She's amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
she's
of course,
fantastic.
Bobby, you know, but Bobby, the business matchmaker, you know, bring us to the monkey, and we've been cool ever since. I mean, a big fan of the monkey and rocks with us, you know.
Wow.
How about you guys, Barrington and Richard? What do you guys see any examples of what James said as far as like companies mixing corporate culture? Aside from Happy Munkey, of course, you know that goes without saying.
You know what? You're starting to see more and more with sport. So we, you know, that's our side hobby. Like the three of us, we'll talk sports all day long. Hockey, basketball, football. You know, maybe soccer every 4 years or whatever. But so now we're starting to see, it's like, oh, this athlete's going to be representing this CBD company, or this athlete's going to be a spokesperson, or you know, there's, for me, my passion's hockey. I'm a huge hockey head.
Hockey.
And so when the NHL Players Association started, I think they teamed up with Canopy and to do research to get the athletes off of opioids, all of those things. Like I was over the moon, and the president in charge of the NHLPA, Glenn Healy, has been a huge proponent of it. So I'm focused on the crossover when you see athletes and getting into the industry or using the benefits of the industry. What's another one? What's that? What's the pink drink? That pink Powerade drink? But not.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys, since you mentioned athletes, one example that I have to give is that hands down is like the one that's mixed the sports and the core and the culture and cannabis as much as I know. I recently had him on here, which is Al Harrington.
We know. Yeah.
And he has definitely brung in all the like to the highest power, like the athletic following and the culture following into cannabis as much as anybody I can think of.
Is he still playing in the Big Three League, or is he just retired?
I don't know. The last time I saw Al, he must have put on like like 40 good pounds from
Awesome.
like the, you know, like 6 months earlier. And I said, Al, like, for Christ's sake, what are you doing? Lifting again? He goes, no, just eating. But like, oh man, he was,
he's a
he was
mountain. He's a
big.
mountain of a man. Yeah.
Because the first time I met him, I was like, yeah, I'd go head to head with that guy under the, you know, for a rebound. You know, he's got a solid 14 inches on me, but you know,
No chance.
I got nothing to be afraid of. And then,
No.
as I say, I saw him in Vegas, and it's like, oh.
When you see athletes tie it in, so you have the health, you have the medicinal, you have sport, you have culture, because athletes are becoming cultural or have become cultural icons. It's such a marriage of so many different things, more so than entertainment. And I'm not taking any away from, you know, Snoop and everybody else, but it's almost like the practical application. Like, I could go running and hurt my leg, and now I need treatment for it. And you see the athletes, they're doing those things and using it, and it's just gonna get bigger and better and healthier. Like, we gotta get off the opioids.
It's funny you say that, right? The biggest example that I recently heard, I had him on the show here, was Ricky Williams. And, you know, I talked about...
Former Toronto Argonaut.
Exactly. So you had to get that in there.
Absolutely.
So then when I told them, like, I was like, you know, as far as like people just know like a little bit of stuff, that's like, as far as like sports, I don't think there's a bigger revolutionary cannabis person that took a stand and turned down all this money just because he believes in cannabis so much than him. And this was his answer to me, guys. He said, no, Vlad, I had to pick whether I want to live or I want to die with money. It's the way he put it to me.
Yeah,
He's
he
like,
had mental stuff as well.
That's the way he put it to me. He was like, it wasn't that simple, Vlad. Like, that's how it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shoving me those opioids, and I'm a running back. I know I'm gonna be brain dead. What am I gonna do with this money?
Now listen, I heard like a most unbelievable interview with Nate Burleson, who was you know, one of Calvin Johnson's wideout partners with the Lions years ago, and he was telling a story of late in his career, he had a bad leg injury, broke his leg, tore up some soft tissue, and so on.
Bless you, James.
So he's he's going in for surgery the following day. And the nurse in the operating room comes back with the blood work, right, that they do before the surgery. She says, "You've got the worst blood work I've ever seen." And he goes, "Oh, well, you know, she says, no. You've got opioid stuff. You've got buildup of this. You got that. You got that." You like said, "You know, son, you're going to die. You're going to die if you keep this lifestyle up." And you know, he said for him that was an amazing, you know, an incredible turning point. And you know, Calvin obviously made the same decision to again walk away from all of that money, and you know, and Calvin and you know, some of his colleagues are invested in a Michigan operation at this point. We've had a chance to meet and talk with him. Same story, right? As you say, these guys, what they are sacrificing with traditional techniques and painkillers and all of that stuff, it's killing them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's, you know, people like that are looked upon as heroes for choosing to be able to live a, you know, another 40, 50 years post-career, as opposed to, what was the average lifespan of an NFL player? Was it like 55 or 57 or something? Yeah, it was crazy. That's your average. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So Rob Gronkowski, who actually represents one of our clients, I mean, I hope he has a great year catching passes from Brady. I hope they lose to the 49ers in the playoffs.
And then lose to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, yeah.
What's he going to think when he gets smashed one time by some jacked up motherfucker who just got out of college and wants to make a name for himself? And he goes, fuck this. I was having fun retired. I was selling CBD creams
Yeah,
Probably
I
having
was
all
at
sorts of other-
WWE and was breaking stuff at New
Won the
Year's
belt.
Eve. And
So I don't know. It's just one of those guys who actually, at first blush, he had it right, and then he's gonna go back and shag, catches from Tom if he can throw him for a year in Tampa. Which the joke between myself and Richard was, does he realize he's going to Tampa Bay and not Miami? But well,
So that's an important question I have for you guys. I've been asking because I tell you I've had a few athletes on here recently.
Mhm.
What do you guys see as far as like the future of sports? How's it gonna work?
That's a tough one.
that is a tough one.
You guys are all sports fans. I had to throw it in there. You guys are all
It's like-
gun-ho sports fan. I gotta hear it from you guys.
Are
I
you?
just-
I mean, you're not doing the empty stadium. You're not doing the empty stadium.
Every athlete that I had on here said, I can't see it working. Part of our energy and our drive is that crowd. It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
That's what
It
they all
doesn't
told
work.
me.
It doesn't work, man. Now, one solution, and I use solution very, very lightly, was you fill up half the stadium or a third of the stadium. So if you're a season ticket holder, you get a third of the games, and
you get a row.
the other you gotta. That's it. And everyone is social distance apart, and you figure it out. And I know we will figure it out, but I don't know when sports is going to return. I really don't. And that's what's killing me right now. I've watched so many sports movies in quarantine, and I know how it ends, and I'm still cheering.
I know you
What?
watched that Last Dance.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding?
Crazy. How about you,
Absolutely.
Richard? What is your opinion on it as far as like the future of sports arenas and?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've got a problem, right? Until you have 60 to 70% of the population with antibodies, or you've got an effective treatment, or you've got a vaccine that's 70 to 80% effective, you're just not going to be able to have people in close proximity and in big crowds. You're just not. So. And we're probably, according to all of the numbers and everything, we're probably a year to 14 months away from that point.
I'm all in on bubble sports, man. Just put
Bubble
them in
sports?
the bubble. Yeah. Like they're talking about the NBA right now. Put everyone in a bubble environment in Vegas or whatever, and just let them play. Like, look, I think about my.
I think the WWE, or sorry, what's
The
it called?
WWE is weird.
Not
MMA.
WWE, MMA. They were talking about getting an island.
Yes, they.
Just getting an island and putting everybody on it, and they can.
Yeah, no.
they're-
Instead, they just they're in Florida. Like yeah, they're getting tattoos, going bowling, and going to the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, going to the beach. Highest COVID spike 26 minutes after letting the beach open. Wow, crazy.
Yeah, no sports will have to adjust, but I think the cool thing is that with what they'll have to do, they're going to have to put something on TV, Vlad. There's just too many sponsorship dollars and too many people just sitting around waiting to watch something. In the Michael Jordan documentary, which is Michael Jordan, but when that's the biggest event to happen in the last 6 weeks, other than people getting COVID, it makes you wonder how much people value sports, which is a lot. So they are going to want to watch sports. I don't care if it's in a bubble. I don't care if there's an audience. I will watch the best athletes compete. I know when I was an amateur athlete, there weren't tons of people in the stands, and I was still motivated to play my hardest. I don't need some jackass who's had 5 beers to cheer me on to
I know,
make me
but
motivated.
it makes it better.
Do you think, okay, when I go to a Raptors game and I'm sitting there
I was
yelling
going to
at
say, but
Kawhi
James,
Leonard or whatever,
that was rugby, and there were only 14 rugby fans in the entire country. So
imagine how good I would have been if there was 50 people at the game. Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's time for the $1 million question. And I'm really interested to see what your opinion is. And I know you guys have watched us a little bit and watched our evolution, so I'm interested to hear what you're going to say. So the $1 million question we ask everybody that's been on the Happy Hour is, if you had to describe Happy Munkey, the movement, the place, the brand, et cetera, in one word, what would it be and why?
Inclusive.
Why inclusive, James?
Sort of have Bear alluded to it before. You guys are for the people. You don't judge those who come through your door, as you said, but also you've taken value out of different parts of society to build your narrative. but what the Happy Monkey's all about, right? So you respect that. We've come from our own background, which is way different than your background, way different than a lot of people you typically get on your show, but you put it all on the same level and you put it out there for people to listen and take whatever they want from. So that's inclusivity. That's cool. I appreciate you do that.
No, thank you for those kind words.
Yeah.
Nobody ever used that. That was good. How about you, Barrington? I want to hear yours, Barrington, because
Yeah, it's just, you are the epicenter. Now, when I think of Happy Munkey, I think of the start point, and everything branches out from there. You have corporate, you have culture, you have athletics, you have lifestyle, you have everything. You have music, you have the vibes. Everything can be found there. And that's what I think of when I think of the Happy Munkey. I can go there with a blank slate, not expecting to meet anybody, not knowing who I'm going to meet, and I will guarantee that I'll cross several planes of people while I'm there. So when I think of Happy Munkey, I think of it as the epicenter.
thank you. I know nobody ever used those words. Sounds very nice. How about you, Mr. Richard? Last but not least, as always.
I'm trying to remember what I said last.
Mr. Motown. Tell me what you got to say.
Okay, tonight what I'm feeling is commitment.
Oh,
Right.
good one.
So you guys, you're working in a state where you have no friends from a regulatory official level, illegal at the federal level, yet you're doing what you're doing. You built this incredible community in New York City, and and spread to to Canada, across the United States. As Bear says, bumping into people from other countries, and you can't do that unless you guys believe powerfully in what you're doing, the commitment. And that's what I feel when I meet with you and your guys. You guys are all in.
Thank you so much, man. That means a lot coming from you guys, because like I said, I really was looking forward to having you guys on here. Aside from the fact that, I consider you all friends and you guys are super cool, it's just your opinions are very valuable to us because, like I said, you guys got that outside in perspective where you see Canada, West Coast, East Coast, and you guys have a great perspective on how to balance it all out and see the difference and the trends and how the industry is working and all the ways that the mechanisms that makes it work from all aspects. So I'm really happy you guys took the time for me. I'm really honored, because like I said, number one thing that the industry is lacking is information and education as the rest of the public. So I feel like, everybody listening in right now that listens to Happy Munkey really got a good perspective on, basically the North, East, and West Coast perspective of cannabis, culture, corporate, and you guys really know how to straddle that fence really well, not better than a lot of people I've seen in this industry. So I want to thank you guys for coming on here and rocking with me in Happy Hour. And I want you guys to tell the people, because I know you guys are famous in the cannabis industry, but New York, everybody doesn't know about your hidden heroes, where they can find you and what should they look forward from each one of you or from the CSC as a whole, 2020 coming up.
Well, I mentioned it earlier, guys, but 5/20 next week. We're calling it Cannabis Week at the CSC. It's going to be cannabis. We call it Cannabis Week Volume 1 because there's going to be Volume 2 and maybe Volume 3 or whatever. But next week, interviews on Instagram Live. So at Canadian Securities Exchange, Barrington Miller is one of our fine hosts, along with Anil Mall. And we're interviewing the top cannabis CEOs. We're also dropping podcasts on hashtag finance. Is literally write hashtag finance in your Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. We're going to be dropping great stuff with Alan Brockstein. I know, Richard, you just taped a show today with a portfolio manager, and you guys run the whole history of how cannabis basically was capitalized here in Canada in the last 6 years. It was hard to believe. And then we've got some other special guests. So Heck, Vlad, we may have you and Ramon on. Who knows?
Listen,
Surprise is
man,
coming around the
wait.
corner.
I haven't been able to make it there physically. At least I got to go there virtually at a bare minimum, right, Richard? What do you say?
Absolutely. We're delighted to have you.
Yeah, we bring lifestyle entrepreneurs on the show, small business owners, people who just share that ethic of how business is done, right? It's not just about the fancy suits and the fast cars. It's about the grind, right? It's about how do you get product to shelf and make it.
Damn, I miss my fancy suits and fast cars, though.
I promise you, those who are watching, Richard does not drive a fast car. So.
Well,
And then,
guys,
yes, of course, Vlad, we'll have you up here and kick it in the minivan and in my front parking lot, and we'll.
definitely, man. I have to.
Bear, what's up? Who do you got next week?
So like you said, I'm up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with leading US MSOs, as well as a few on the side podcasts. So we're doing Instagram Live. You can also find us on YouTube under CSE_TV, as well as www.thecse.com for all the information regarding our stock exchange. And if you want some more information, check out the blog section of our exchange. And one thing that people have to know, if they didn't already, is that what you see here, Richard and his cat. What you see here, and as far as the culture that's been cultivated at the exchange, actually flows from the top down. And Richard, for better or for worse, on his behalf, has an open door policy, and we take that opportunity to jump in through that door every chance, and he'll listen to any and all of our ideas. Some make it, some don't, but it's reassuring that we have that support, and same with James and same with the team that they've constructed. So we're a different type of exchange. We're definitely not your daddy's stock exchange. That's we're not that, and we don't want to be that.
Don't let people wear brown blazers to the office.
you guys have spoiled me. You're my first exchange friends. You guys raised the bar so high.
This is you know what, we've met a lot of others along the way, and yeah.
We take what we do very seriously. We understand our responsibilities as a quasi-regulator and as an exchange, but we also know that authentic conversation and genuine concern for who we work with is, if you don't have that, then you don't have customers. So we're all about that.
Yeah. So.
And that's what part of this whole happy hour thing is, guys. Like, you know, I get so many people like you guys that are real serious corporate people and everything, but then, you know, people get to see the side on happy hour with Vlad of, like, you know, the more personal, the culture side that a lot of people don't know that corporate people like you guys have, and how cool you guys really are as people aside from your titles, which is what I like to, you know, show on this show, you know, show those different
Appreciate
perspectives.
that. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, guys, it's been an honor and a pleasure, but as you guys know in life, all good things must come to an end. Now, I really appreciate you guys. I know you guys could be anywhere virtually in the world, but you're here with me. I really look forward to seeing you guys in the near future. Thank you guys so much for taking out the time to come kick it with me here. It meant a lot to me. Stay medicated. And to everybody out there, I want you guys all to know it's a tough time right now, but you're all too blessed to be stressed. Things will get greater later. For now, checking out from the Happy Munkey Happy Hour with Vlad. Peace. Till the next time, guys.
Right on, man.
All right.
Thanks, Vlad.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
See you soon.